I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street. Hey guys, my name is Steve Owens, and I think that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to find them and hear what they are. This is the first podcast. Bear with me. I will get better. I'm learning and progressing. This first podcast is with my mother-in-law, and it was recorded in an airport in a secluded area of the airport. So bear with me. There might be some background noise. I removed as much of it as I could, but like I said, I'm still working. So without further ado, enjoy my mother-in-law.
Yeah, talk to me, yeah.
Hi Leslie. We call you Honey. What's your real name? What's your full name?
Leslie Jeanette Manus Smith.
Do you still have all those names?
All but the Manus.
Oh. I'm not gonna ask you where you were or when you were born because that's just rude. But
I'm
where
proud
were you?
of it.
You're proud of when you were born?
Absolutely.
Oh, well then I'll ask. When were you born?
In 1944.
And why are you proud of that?
Every day of my life that I've lived, I'm proud of. And I'm not proud of everything I did on every day.
Where were you born?
San Bernardino, California.
And how did your family get, like, what took your family to San Bernardino?
The war took my
Which war?
family. World War II.
World War II.
And my mother worked in a munitions plant. They lived in Oklahoma when they moved, and they were very poor. And my father, after they were there, I believe, maybe before she went there, was in Alaska working on the Alaskan pipeline.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. What about your dad?
He was there all the time during my mother's pregnancy with me, and he got terribly ill when she went into labor, but he didn't know it, and she got a telegram from him saying they had to put him in the hospital with horrible abdominal pain. And when they put her in the hospital, they had to just feel her stomach to feel the contractions. And she got a telegram from him about how he felt better and they couldn't find anything wrong with him, but I'd been born.
Really?
Really. Isn't that something?
That's pretty cool. I wish you had those telegrams.
I wish I
That'd be
did
awesome.
too. I have some telegrams and I don't know why. And she said she had them for years, but I think he ended up with them. Separated. Divorced when I was about 2.
Gotcha. Wow, that's really cool. Okay, so then is that where you were raised in San Bernardino?
No, I don't ever remember living there. My first memory is of Altus, Oklahoma, when we lived there when I was a young child, and my parents owned several different restaurants there. And
This would be your mother and your stepfather?
no, my mother and my real father, and
Okay.
then and I really don't remember ever living with my real father. I really don't. My memory starts after he was out of the picture, so I was probably about 3 or 4.
Gotcha.
And that's when my brother and my sister and I were there, and my brother went into the service from there in the Korean War.
So how old was your brother?
My brother was 10 years older than me. My sister was
Okay.
8 years older than me, but he wasn't 15 when he went in the service. My mother lied about his age. He wanted to go in the service.
So he was
14.
He was 14.
And she said he was fixing to go. His friends all ended up in prison.
How old were you supposed to be?
Well, he was 17 when he came home from there after he had been a prisoner of war, and he finally told them his true age, and my mother had been tracking him down through the Red Cross, and he had been in a prisoner of war camp. And one night we were going to a drive-in movie. That was before she knew that they'd found him. My stepfather, my mother, and I. And there was a soldier on the side of the road, hitchhiking. Stopped. And it was him.
Shut up.
He was the first Korean War vet back. There were big, I've got
Are you
paper clippings
kidding?
of him. He was the first Korean War back in that area, Lubbock, Texas.
How crazy is that? Y'all are just driving down the street and then there
And my
he
mother
is?
said, you know, that could be my boy. I mean, not literally, she meant.
Right. She's like, hey, if only that could be my boy.
And, you know, and Hop, my stepdad, anyway, they stopped, and it was. And I can remember that. And actually, I think my sister was with them, but I just remember oh my gosh, everybody was just out of their mind.
Wow. Did y'all make the movie?
No, I don't think so. I don't remember, but I don't think so. I don't think that was the issue then.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
I've got the clippings of the paper of him sitting in different restaurants because there were articles about him in the Avalanche Journal, which was the big Lubbock paper.
Wow.
First Korean War. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so then that was in Lubbock.
Right. And I was raised in Idaho,
which
a
is
little town.
Just outside of Lubbock.
10 miles outside of east of Lubbock.
So then, what made you leave Idaho or Lubbock?
Well, I married young, and I had 3 small children, and my husband left me, and I felt sorry enough for myself that I didn't need everybody in the town knew me. And my sister gave me the opportunity to move to Mississippi with my children and get a fresh start, and I knew that that would be my best chance at having it, and I was still very young at that time.
So she was already living in Mississippi
That's correct. Yes.
for a while?
Oh yes, she was living in Columbus, Mississippi, and she had lived in a small town out from there for years, but they were doing very well.
What took her to Columbus?
She married a man from Columbus from the Air Force Base in Lubbock.
Okay.
She married an Air Force guy,
And then they got transferred?
and he was from Columbus,
Oh, he was from
Mississippi,
Columbus.
and he went to Germany not long after they were married. And then it was like his son was 18 months old when he got home.
Wow.
You know, you went for like, I
2
think he was
years,
there.
yeah.
Yes,
That's a
yes.
Wow.
Anyway, and he was from Columbus, Mississippi, and so they took my sister and that little boy that was like my little brother and went to Mississippi.
Gotcha. Wow. That's pretty cool. Okay, so you and 3 kids get to Columbus,
Right.
and was this before you were a beautician?
No, I was a beautician.
You were already a beautician.
That's correct, yeah.
So then was it difficult to get set up? I'm assuming that you went right to work.
It could have been very difficult. I went to work in my sister and brother-in-law's Minute Mart. They had a Minute Mart, but it was
Like
like
a convenience store?
Yes, but it was really nice. It was a big one.
Well, it must have been nice if they did hair.
They didn't do hair.
Oh.
But anyway, I worked in their store at night.
Oh, you worked in the store at the store, you weren't doing hair in the store.
Oh, I worked at the register at
Okay.
night
Gotcha.
from like 3 in the afternoon till 11 at night.
Okay.
And they put me in a beauty shop in the same shopping strip that their store was in.
Oh, gotcha.
They were wonderful.
How sweet is that? So they helped get you set up?
Oh, I would not have had the nice right. They bought me a brand new mobile home, but I paid them monthly
Right.
for it. But they bought it outright. They had a friend who was in the mobile home business, and so they got a really good deal on it. And it was like a castle to me and my children. It was 2-bedroom, 1 bath, kitchen, living room,
Wow.
10 foot wide.
Where was it? Like, was it on a little piece of property, or was it in a neighborhood? Like, where was it?
It was on a little vacant lot piece of property on Highway 45, which is now a big business district.
Ah.
But it was a big piece of property, and they fenced in the backyard. My kids had, sandbox, swings. Nice.
Really?
Yeah.
So what was it like back then, being a single mom with 3 kids and having to work and provide for everybody?
Well, I still, even after I got the beauty shop, I worked at nights for a while to get my business
At the store?
established at the store, and worked in the days at the beauty shop. And then
Gotcha.
I got a girl that to work. It was just a 2-station beauty shop, but until I got my business built up and got another girl to work in there also. And life had been hard.
Sounds like it.
But it was, I don't think hard like nowadays. There weren't the drugs and the issues that there are now. It was different issues, but most everybody I knew was poor, but we didn't think of ourselves as poor, and my mother had always made all my clothes and everything. She was a beautiful seamstress, and I thought I was hachi-chachi. And I enjoyed school, I loved school, I excelled in school, but there were other reasons anyway. So I married really young, and life was hard. So I thought, as a young single parent, because I had such a wonderful sister and brother-in-law, I thought I was on top of the world, because life was improving for me, and I was in control of it completely, but I couldn't have been if it wasn't for my sister and brother-in-law.
That's very sweet.
I had control of my life for the first time in my life, although I couldn't have. But I remember them. And then I met Billy Smith right before he went to Vietnam.
Now, his name's not Billy.
I met Cheryl Anderson Smith III.
Cheryl Anderson Smith III. Now, that is not a very manly name, but this
Don't
is one
call
of the
him
most
Sue.
this is one of the most manly dudes I've ever met. He is a cowboy
He's
to the
manly.
fullest.
He's manly.
He does not suffer fools, this guy. So how did y'all meet?
It was a blind date.
He was blind?
I just love you.
That's so sweet that you went out with a blind guy.
Oh, I thought he was.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, I was working at my sister-in-law's store.
Your sister's
The night I met him.
sister-in-law store.
My sister-in-law gave my sister and her husband, which was my brother-in-law,
His sister, right.
his sister, and they had the first Minute Mart in Columbus, Mississippi, and had done so well.
I'm going to
They
assume her
opened-
name was Shirley.
Her name was Shirley, and my sister and her husband couldn't have had the opportunity they had it not been for Shirley.
Interesting.
And Shirley and Otis, my sister's husband, looked like twins, and they didn't really look like they belonged in that family. They looked. They do. Now that Otis is old, he looks like his mother looked when she was old. But anyway, they were very, very, very close as children growing up. And she opened this store and said, "Otis, I want you to run it for me." And he ended up owning it. And they ended up partners in other business adventures.
Very cool. So you're telling me about how you met Billy?
So I was working at Shirley's Minute Mart, Shirley, the first owner,
Gotcha. Minute Mart number 1.
a couple of days before Thanksgiving in 1967.
Okay.
And this girl that I had met there wanted me to meet a friend of hers that was coming into town for a few weeks before his deployment to Vietnam.
Coming into town.
To his home, coming back
he was
to
coming home. Okay.
from
Like-
Milwaukee.
Okay. Was that where basic training was or something?
No, his basic training was in Louisiana.
Biloxi.
No, Louisiana.
You're like, no, stupid. I just said Louisiana.
No. But anyway, he was stationed in Milwaukee for a year.
Okay.
He was in the military police.
And so he was coming home for a little bit before he got deployed to
Vietnam.
Vietnam. Okay. So your friend said, I want you to meet this guy.
Yes.
His name is Cheryl, and you said, never mind.
And I said, I'm really not interested
In a boy named Cheryl.
in dating anyone at this particular time in my life.
How long had you been in Columbus? Like, how long had it been since you and your husband parted ways?
May of 67.
Okay. So not long at all. No wonder you weren't ready yet.
No.
Okay. So you said, no thanks. And then
She said, well, we're going to just drop by and see you.
So they dropped by the store?
They dropped by the store, she and her husband and Billy. And I thought, this guy looks like a thug.
A what?
A thug.
A thug. Okay.
Ducktails, black hair, Brill cream, a little dab will do you.
Okay.
DuckTales.
So it was all slicked back like he was in the movie Grease?
It really didn't look greasy, probably. And loafers, and he didn't have on his uniform, or I would have probably had a different.
Was he wearing like a white t-shirt with a cigarette pack rolled up in his sleeve?
Probably under the shirt, probably, because he definitely had a cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
Gotcha.
I probably did too.
Sure.
I smoked at the time.
Well, doctors smoked during surgery back then. So.
Anyway, I thought, and they said, well, just let us take you, let's go out and have a Coke after you get off from work. And I didn't have enough.
Coke. Man, the good old days.
I didn't have enough couths to know how to get out of it. And I called my brother-in-law and thought that he could help me out of it, but he didn't, because he knew Billy, and he was like, yes! And he knew his family. Go out with that guy. And I said, I'll go out and have a Coke with him, but that's it.
That's funny.
So
it was just a Coke, huh?
Yep.
So this was shortly before he gets deployed. So maybe y'all went out on a couple of dates before he left?
Well, the next night I was working at my sister's store.
Okay, Shirley number 2. Shirley's Minute Mart number 2.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And about 10 o'clock, before I got off at 11, in strolled Mr.
Sheridan Smith. She strutted. Billy
thought,
strut.
He didn't look really like a thug, and he was really nice last night. And he wanted to take me. He didn't ask about taking me home, but he just kept hanging around. And he kept hanging around. And at 11 o'clock, he said, could we go get a Coke? When Otis, my brother-in-law, came to close the store. And I just said, go on. You don't have to stay here till I get locked up. Go on. Because he did come from a nice family, and they knew him.
Right. So this is kind of an odd question, I guess, but you're working in a convenience store. He wants to go get a Coke. Presumably, y'all sold Coke at this convenience store.
So maybe it wasn't about going and getting a Coke. Maybe it wasn't.
He said, do you want to go get a Coke? And you just pointed to the cooler and said, go get your own damn Coke.
Actually, where we went to get a Coke was called the Crazy 8.
Okay.
And
Was it like a soda fountain bar?
They sold beer. It was like a joint, but I didn't drink beer.
So y'all went to a bar to have a Coke?
He knew them, and he had a beer and
Oh.
and he knew everybody there.
You had a Coke and he had a beer.
Exactly.
I've gotcha.
And that was before I even put anything in my Coke.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, back then they were already putting stuff in your Coke, weren't they?
I don't know, were they?
Yeah, weren't they putting cocaine in Coke a long time ago or something?
Steve, am I that old? Was that before 1944? Or 64?
I don't know.
7? Okay.
Okay, so y'all went and had a Coke and a beer and a smile, and then
he took me home.
He took you home.
And the next night he was there.
At the store?
Yeah.
Just waiting for you to get off again?
And then I got to where I was just, he was coming in at 9:30. He was there every night.
I stalked my wife too, so it's fine.
And then after he'd been doing that about a week, I had to go to Texas. My sister took me and my 3 children back to Texas.
To Idalou?
To Lubbock for my final divorce decree.
Oh, to sign the papers?
Yeah.
And so then you were like, oh, hey, Billy,
Well, he
I
knew
gotta go.
He
Right.
knew the story.
Sure, of course.
So I went, and we were gone a week because my parents still lived there.
Okay,
So we visited with them.
sure.
And
Just you and your sister, or all the kids too?
my children. It was like in early December. And then we came back home. We got home on a Saturday afternoon, my sister and my children. And I got a call. That was before, there was no, I got this telephone call. And Billy
Now, was
wanted
that back when there was a party line, so half the neighborhood picked up the phone?
It was after that.
Okay.
They had a private line. He wanted to know if he could come over and celebrate with us that night.
Celebrate your divorce?
Exactly.
Very cool. That is very sweet. Okay.
So I went to the door that night when the doorbell rang.
You just answered the door in a negligee. You're like, what's up, Billy?
This is Pat and Otis's house, and they were there. They had somebody else working at the store because
I'm
we just
messing
came
with you.
in.
Okay.
And I wouldn't let him meet my children until after that. So he hadn't met my children yet. Because this was temporary for me, and I wasn't going to expose my children to anything I didn't want them
Sure. No, I got you.
exposed to.
All right, I got you. That makes sense.
So I opened the door, and I could tell by the look on his face that something was going on between us. I mean, he looked at me like he wanted to eat me up, and I felt like he'd never kissed me.
Well, to be fair, he looks at me like that every time I see him.
Well, to be fair, he still looks at me that way on occasion when he's
I
not
know,
mad
I've seen
at me.
him. I've seen him. He thinks you hung the moon. Keep telling him that's just a light bulb you screwed in,
Oh,
but
I
he
know.
thinks you hung the
But
moon.
anyway, so we had a celebration that night, and then he met my children. He kept wanting to meet my children, and I introduced him to my children as a friend of mine.
Sure, he was.
And when he brought me back to the house that night, and he walked me to the door, that was the first time he kissed me.
So y'all had seen each other several times,
Oh, well,
and it had been like 2-3 weeks?
Oh, it had been, we didn't see each other. I think we almost did every night up until we went. So that was from the end, yeah, it had been, I think my divorce was on like December the 6th. Of course, we were there a few days before the divorce
Sure.
happened. So we probably might have left the end of November. So we'd been out 5 or 6 times.
Over the course of a couple of weeks? 2 weeks
No,
maybe?
probably every night.
Well, but I
Was
mean,
it-
and then you were gone for a week.
And then I was gone for a week.
So by the time y'all finally kissed, it had been 2 weeks or so since
Oh,
y'all
it'd
met?
be, yeah.
Wow, that's a long time ago. 2017, you'd have been pregnant. Y'all didn't have your first kiss, and you'd be having your first baby.
Well,
That's funny.
he was he knew I had told Brenda I was kind of shell-shocked, I think, from my ordeal. He was
Sure.
very slow with me. He was
Right.
very,
Patient.
He was such a gentleman.
He still is.
He absolutely is a Southern gentleman. Yes, he is. He got a temper, though.
Right.
I
That's
can
the southern
provoke
part.
him.
What?
With greatest of ease.
What?
But anyway, yeah. So that was how we met. And then he went off before New Year's Eve. He was there until maybe a week before. I don't think he was there at Christmas. Right about
So you
Christmas
guys-
time he left.
So you guys really only, I mean, he left for Vietnam like a month after y'all met?
Mm-hmm. He asked me if he wrote to me, would I answer? Would I write to him? And I said, sure,
Said, nope,
sure.
absolutely not.
But I really, I did kind of think by then he would write, but I will never forget that look. I remember.
When you opened the door?
Yeah, I'll never forget that look.
Really?
I will never forget that look.
Twinkle in that eye.
I don't know, his eyes, I don't know. I'll just never forget that look. I don't get that look all the time. I get that I love you look, but I will never forget that look.
That is super sweet. Okay, so how did your relationship manage him being gone? Because he was gone for, I gotta assume, a while.
Well, he was gone for about 9 months, and it would have been longer, but his time was up.
Okay.
He was drafted. He was in for 2 years. So he was there 9 months.
Drafted.
Maybe a little over 9 months. He was on the police force when he was drafted.
So he was already a cop.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so how old was he at this time? So
Let me see.
y'all were what, in your mid-20s?
I was 22. He was 23.
Okay.
He had been on the police force since he'd been old enough because that's what he wanted to be. So, and then he went into the military police.
So he was an MP?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And he ended up being a dog handler in the military police.
A canine MP.
But that's not what he did in Vietnam. He was just an MP. But
Gotcha.
in Milwaukee, he was a dog handler. He didn't he didn't have a dog in Vietnam.
Gotcha. Oh, that's
And-
cool. Okay, so he's gone for 9 months. He wrote you a couple times. You wrote him back a couple times. Y'all still have those letters?
I have every one of them, and in the order, it's a box.
Do you really?
I have every one of them in the order that I got them, and he has said a couple of times, "Why
So
didn't I
do
save
you-
those letters?"
So you kept his, but he didn't keep yours? But you have every one of the
I
letters
have
he sent
every
you?
one of them, and a couple of times during
Do you have the envelopes too?
everything. Yeah,
Do the envelopes, are they the white ones with
free.
the red, white, and blue all over there?
Around.
Oh.
I'll show you the
Oh,
box
you
sometime.
have to. I can't wait to see these.
I could even let you sometime if you wanted to even look at them. There's not anything mushy. There's not anything risque in them. But
Well,
I will
if
tell
this
you
dude waited
this.
several weeks to kiss you, I'm sure he didn't write anything
I
salacious.
was astounded. He wrote a letter just like he talked. I had the hardest time writing to him. I'm not a good letter writer.
But he just flowed like he was having a conversation?
It was just like a conversation with him. And the 2 times during my lifetime that I've read them from begin all the way through again, this was after marriage.
It just makes you cry?
I have fallen into it's
Really?
all
Oh my gosh, I
over
want to read
again.
these so bad.
And they're not love letters, though. You would probably think, what?
So is this, I mean, there's probably what, like 4 or 5 letters?
Oh, it's you know the box that envelopes come in?
Yeah.
It's packed full.
Oh. So like 6 or 7 letters.
There's a bunch.
I can't wait to read these letters, if you'll let me. Oh my gosh, I can't wait.
Of course, I want to read them again before just because I want to. It's been
Sure,
a
of
long time.
course.
I haven't read them since Andy died. A good while before Andy died was the last time I read them. And I've
All
only
right, well,
read 'em
don't
a
choke
couple
up.
of
We'll
times.
get there.
I'm not.
So he's gone for 9 months. What are you doing besides working 2 jobs and raising 3 kids?
I went on a lot of different dates
Okay.
because by that time I knew a lot of people from coming in the beauty shop, and everybody was always wanting to fix me up.
Were you still Mormon at this time?
I was
Oh,
not
oh,
a
you were
Mormon
not
at
Mormon.
this time, but I did. We went to church.
Okay. Like a regular church?
Yeah, Baptist church.
A Baptist church. Okay. Sorry.
I just love it. Anyway,
So you went
I
on a
did
couple
the
of dates.
preacher's wife and everything with the church. Speaking of going to church, I did a lot of the people in my Sunday school class and the preacher's wife. I had a strong circle of women friends back
Mostly
in
from
that
the church?
day, everybody wanted to fix you up because you needed to get married.
Yeah. You
And-
need somebody to take care of you.
And I was having such a grand time being my own woman, paying back my beauty shop a little bit at a time, paying on this
The independence.
little tin box that was like a castle to me. I felt like I had a castle. And the next thing I knew, they bought me a car.
Good Lord.
I think it's the circle of life. That's how Shirley had helped to bring them out of almost poverty, you know? They didn't have my sister cooked on a wood stove and didn't even have a bathroom in her house until she moved to Columbus, Mississippi.
Really?
So Shirley, Otis's
What do you mean
sister,
cooked on a wood stove?
She cooked on a wood stove.
Like you build a fire in the firebox and then you can cook your baked beans and shit on top?
Exactly. And there wasn't
Like Little House on the Prairie style?
There wasn't even an outhouse. They went to the bushes.
This
And
is in the 1900s.
This was in the night. They moved to Columbus in the early 1960s.
So we're
and
talking
she
about
moved into a tract home, and it was a palace to her. And then from that, they had already moved in. They had already built another home before I got there.
So you're talking about like the Clampetts before they
Now
struck in oil.
we had a bathroom in Idlew in the house.
Okay. Wow.
But back in those days, there were a lot of places in Mississippi that did not have indoor bathrooms. But there were a lot of places that had mansions. It was the 60s.
Yeah.
But
The
they
60s.
lived out in
There
the
was a lot of-
boonies. He was farming cotton, but mostly sitting on the front porch. It was a little bitty tract of land they were
Who
renting.
was?
Otis.
Really?
When we
Otis was a cotton farmer?
the times we went to visit them after they were married, I was like, what is she about?
So he went from being a podunk cotton farmer into the Air Force.
No, he was in the Air Force, and when he got out, he moved back to Mississippi and went to being a podunk cotton farmer.
But he wasn't that first and then again?
No. His dad was a preacher.
So this dude went to Germany, saw all the sights, and then was like, no, I'm just going to sit on the porch and grow cotton?
He wanted to go back to Bellefontaine, Mississippi.
Wow.
Probably it was a country store which his brother owned, and a mail and a post office.
That's crazy. Okay, so you're
And
on,
his dad was a preacher.
so you're on all these dates with half the town while Billy's gone.
No. I kind of felt like I was, although it wasn't like that. I mean, I went on a lot of Coke, just let's go have a Coke, or come over to our house and meet so-and-so.
Gotcha.
I went on several
You
of
went on a
those.
lot of first dates.
I went on a lot of first dates, and I met a really nice man in the Air Force who was just stationed at Columbus, who was crazy about me, and he was a really nice man, but he was, he wanted to take my children and me and make us happy for the rest of our lives, and I was like,
He wanted to take care of you.
and I was like, I can't do this.
You're like, no, I'm taking care of myself
I can't
now.
do this. And then there was this movie star man that kept coming in the store at night. I was still working there,
Yeah.
and his name was John McClanahan, and I didn't know him or anything. Otis talked to him.
He was
when
an actual movie star?
He looked like a movie
Okay.
star. He had a steakhouse in town.
Is it called McClanahan's? That's what I would have called it.
What was it called? One of them was called the Golden Horn. It was that he actually had two, but anyway, Otis told me a lot about him. He said he's a really nice guy. Otis knew his family and him anyway, and I just thought, my gosh, he looks like a movie star. And one day, I was fixing this bar girl's hair, who I did at the beauty shop. Her name was Betty. And I
Okay.
said, Betty, what is your last name? And she said, McClanahan. And I said, you're kidding. She said, no. I said, do you know John? And she said, I work at his steakhouse. He's my cousin.
Cousin, oh,
And
cool.
I said, oh my God, is he gorgeous or what? And she fell out laughing. She said, well, you and everybody else in Lowndes County thinks that. And I said, well, he just looks like a movie star. And she said, oh, I can't wait to tell him you think he looks like a movie star. And I said, don't you dare. I was appalled. Really, I was. Well, anyway, a few days after that, he comes in the store one night, and he makes eye contact with me and gives me a grin and a smile, and I'm like, he knows. I could just tell.
He knows what? How pretty he is?
That I think he looks like a movie star.
Oh, so that smile told you that she
So
didn't
he
keep her
picks
mouth
up
shut.
his things, and before, when he'd come in the store a few times, he always had a luscious looking babe on his arm. That he didn't that night, but he starts talking to me at the checkout as he was checking out, and he said, so you do Betty's hair?
And you said, not anymore.
And I'm like, yes, I do. And I think I said something like, you know, Daffy Duck's a movie star or something. I said something that I thought was,
Oh,
you
that's
know,
awesome.
and he looked kind of funny.
So you
but
think I
anyway.
look like a movie star? Yeah. The Three Stooges are
He
also
didn't
movie
even
stars.
say that to me, but I knew he knew. So anyway, he asked me out, and I started going with him, and I really liked him. But then, all of a sudden, he got real serious, and I was like, you know, Billy Smith, and he was like,
He was like, yeah, I'm terrified of Billy Smith.
Billy Smith. Their families, I didn't know, they were very, very, I didn't know any of this, but anyway, and he was like, oh my gosh, he said, you're gonna, you know, because I told him, I said, I'm not gonna be serious about anybody till Billy comes back, because I wanna just see if, you know, I was beginning to have these feelings for Billy through the letters even more so than the short time, really, that we were together. And it was almost time for him to come home by the time John was really getting serious with me, because he had been, he was a gentleman too, he really was, but he was, and he really, really liked me. I was surprised because there were a lot of women after him. But anyway, and he was very nice to my children, that you know, he and Benny, I guess, were the ones that were the night. Oh, but there was a grocery store guy, a big, rich, fat, ugly old guy.
Ooh.
From Dothan, Alabama. He was a broker for grocery store. He was a big guy, money wise. He wanted to take me to the Sugar Bowl and this and that, and take care of my kids for life.
You mean actually take you to the Sugar Bowl, or was that a euphemism?
What I can do for you? Do you know what I can do for you and your kids? That kind of guy.
Gotcha.
And he wrote me
Sounds
some
like a
letters.
charmer.
Oh my gosh, I think I've got the letter he wrote, some of the letters he wrote to a couple. And I finally, he found out where I lived and showed up at my door on my day off. It was scary.
That's stalkery.
I would say nowadays it was stalkery. But anyway, what were we talking about? Anyway, so John got mad at me.
McClanahan? Because
And
you said,
for a week
I don't
I
want to be as serious as you want to be?
No, he was really upset because he had professed his love to me. That's what he did.
And you were like, that's cool, but Billy's coming back.
I said, I'm not even going there because I'm going to go with Billy some when he goes back, when he comes back, and it's almost time. And he got real upset, so he didn't call me for over a week. And then I knew it was his birthday on the 29th of September. And I called him, you know, and I said, at his house. And his mom answered the phone, and she said, oh, girl, he's been moping around this house. What did you do to him? I loved his mother. She was a school teacher, and I really didn't know her, but that was the friendliest she'd ever been to me. And she said, I'm cooking a roast. And John took the phone then. He said, yeah, won't you come on over? You want to come over here and eat? She was cooking a roast for him for his birthday. And Billy was due back any day then. And he knew that too. But anyway, I went out with John that night, and he was nice. And the next day, Billy came home. And I didn't say anything to Billy about John. But anyway, and Billy looked so different. I was shocked I was shocked. He called a friend to pick him up, didn't call me or anything, but he came to my house that night. And he probably weighed 180 or 90 when he left. I'm thinking about, he probably weighed that. And he weighed like 130 or 35. He looked...
Emaciated?
And he was very flippant, didn't care about anything. That was his attitude. I don't care about it. Yeah, I came to see, he bent down, he was great with the kids, but they were afraid of him at first, and they had loved him before he left. He looked, you know, once they realized, yes, that was really him. But with me, he was very, because I was so excited about him coming in. He was
So
like...
he was just nonchalant?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did not have that look in his eye.
Gotcha.
He did not have it. Would that be interesting to anybody besides you?
Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2014 album Intransigence, used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is Apollo from the 2001 album Into the Known by the band Sapphire. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit about our guest. We'll see you next time on Fascination Street.